Well, hey everyone, I hope this video finds you well. I've decided to start doing more and more videos just from the car, and the reason for that is life gets in the way, meetings get in the way, the busyness of everything happens, and then honestly I don't have the time, and oftentimes I'll forget or get tied up, so I don't have the ability to put these out as often as I'd like. And so just moving forward, because I'm in the car a lot, I'm always driving to meetings or whatever, it makes it a lot easier for me to do a quick video for you and give you some timely information. So hopefully this you can hear me okay, and you don't mind this format, but it'll definitely give you a lot more information a lot more quickly. So this video or this content is something I wanted to put out actually about 2 weeks ago. So this is again why I want to get this to you. And the question that I've been getting a lot from people is, should I buy a house right now? You know, rates are really low. You know, I want to get into real estate. What do you think? The short answer is, I don't think you should buy property right now. I'm not buying any property right now. In fact, I'm trying to get rid of as much real estate as I can and really just cash up, because I believe there's going to be some amazing opportunities in the near future. But short term, I wouldn't buy. Now, here's the reason why. The CDC has put a moratorium on evictions, okay, for basically everybody nationwide up until Christmas. And really the stipulation they put was, you know, if you can show that you've been affected by coronavirus, or that if you were to be evicted from your home, if you're a tenant, that you would be homeless or have to move in with other people, if that were to happen, then that's how you get this exemption, so that you can't be evicted by your landlord. And the truth is that it's a self-certification. You sign the documents yourself, and really people can say lots of things about how they were or were not affected, or how they might be affected. The basis for the order is health, and so the idea is you know, that if people were to be evicted from their homes, they could become homeless, or they'd have to move in with others, which spreads the disease because more people are in contact. So whether or not you know, that's 100% you know, realistic or whatever, it doesn't matter, but that's the reason why they're doing it. And so ultimately what this means for landlords is you can't evict anyone really until Christmas is the date that they've put, or basically the end of the year. The truth is that realistically, you're going to end up with a bunch of people that are still going to be in trouble, and so they're going to have to extend this thing, because no one's going to throw a single mother and 3 kids out in the snow at Christmas. It's just not going to happen, okay? And so because of that, I think this problem will push into next year, and it's really, all it's doing is, I mean, it's helping some people, and I think that's fine, but ultimately it's kicking the can down the road, and eventually a wave of evictions is going to come no matter what happens. And there's really 2 reasons for that. The first is that there was a number of evictions that haven't happened yet. So a lot of the courts closed down in March and April this year because of coronavirus, and so there was a ton of evictions that haven't happened up until this point, because a lot of the courts were not processing eviction cases, right? That's the first thing. The second thing is, there's a lot of tenants that haven't been able to pay up until this point, that are looking at, you know, the last few months and saying, well, I've got this moratorium in place, they can't evict me, it's not possible, I haven't been able to pay rent, am I going to continue to live here, or am I going to leave? And the reality is once a tenant is behind, I mean, I've owned tons of rental property over the years, and I can tell you honestly, once a tenant is behind by 1-2 months, they're not going to make that money up most of the time, okay? Sometimes they can, but most of the time, 1-2 months, let alone 3, 4, 5, 6, 12 months in some cases, maybe longer. Those tenants are going to stay in that home because frankly, they've got nowhere to go anyway, because there's not a lot available right now because everyone's staying put. But effectively, they're going to stay in that place as long as they can, and then, you know, they'll just leave. And the landlord is going to end up holding the bag for the lost rent during that time. You know, why is the government doing this? Honestly, most of it is political. Yes, there is, obviously they want to help some people. Most of it is political. And that's because there's more renters than there are landlords, okay? You can have, you know, for example, if I'm a landlord and I own one house, in that house, there's oftentimes at least 1, if not 2, 3 voters, okay? Husband and wife, let's say, and an adult child. Most kids, you know, now are living with parents still longer. So think about it. Who am I going to upset if I'm a politician? I'd rather upset the least number of people, you know, or get the most number of votes. And so renters, tenants, there's more of them. You know, one landlord could own 5 houses. So they upset the landlord, they might lose 1 vote, maybe the husband and wife they might lose in terms of that vote, but they could get 10 or 15, you know, votes from the tenants because they're happy that they've kept them in that home. So ultimately, a lot of politics is at play, and that is going to come to an end at some point. And so because of that, I'm just uncomfortable right now with with owning rental property. I don't know which way the economy is going to go, and I don't know which way the government is going to go in terms of making the rules to try and help people or to get them through this period. So I just think it's very risky right now. And so for that reason, I would advise not to buy any rental property. And if you have it, I would actually sell it. Again, I think there's going to be a lot of softness in the market, a lot of evictions at this time. The second reason why I wouldn't want to buy property right now is that the prices are super inflated. I mean, think about it, you've got 12 million people out of work, and the prices right now are higher than they've been all year. Prices have risen during coronavirus. I mean, how does that make sense? You got 12 million people out of work and prices are rising. And this brings me to the second point, which I've been asked a lot about, and that is, should I buy a house right now? The only way I would buy a house right now is if I personally was going to live in it, and I was going to live in it for the next 5 or 10 years. I think if in the next 5 or 10 years, I actually think you'll do quite well, because inflation is going to come and it's going to raise the prices of everything. Right now, the price of lumber, if you're American, but the price of lumber has tripled, right? Tripled in the last 6 months. In other words, the cost to build a house is going up significantly. It's hard to find tradespeople. Everything costs more. That's just going to push into the prices of homes. But in the short term, what's happening is there's so few houses for sale because people are not moving. The migration's not happening. There's just a lot of factors that are stopping the movement of people. And so there's just not a lot of houses available right now. And so the people that need to buy are paying top dollar for it. But that's not going to last forever. And so I think you're going to see softness in the market as far as the rental market from a number of people being evicted. I think you're going to see softness in the market as far as people buying into the future, because many people have lost their jobs. Their credit's going to be completely destroyed. A lot of tenants that would have become owners, their credit's going to be shot because they're unemployed, and they're going to run into a lot of issues. So I just think real estate is not a safe place to be right now over the next 1-2 years, maybe 3. I don't know. I'm kind of thinking about 1 to 2 years. After that, I think it actually will do quite well. So in the short term, what I'm doing is I'm being cashed up. I'm selling some assets. I sold my Lamborghini last week. I'm getting rid of the stuff that I don't think is going to do well in a recession, basically, and I'm keeping all the money in cash and just waiting for great opportunities, and I think that they will come. I mean, some of the laws, even in Colorado, they passed this law a while ago, maybe about 3 or 4 months ago. It's called a warrant of habitability. So let me give you a quick example. It used to be that the landlord and the owner would work together on a maintenance issue. Now it's basically on the landlord no matter what. And it used to be that if the landlord had an issue, the tenant could contact them and they would work together, but the tenant still had to pay rent. Now the tenant basically doesn't have to do anything. If something goes wrong, it's completely on the landlord. So here's an example. The house doesn't have bed bugs. Tenant brings bed bugs in, landlord has to clean them up. Tenant brings bed bugs in again, landlord has to clean them up again. Tenant brings bed bugs in after the 3rd time, landlord has to clean it up. If the landlord doesn't clean it up, the tenant has to be put up in a hotel or in other accommodation that's of similar quality at the landlord's expense, right? Until the landlord fixes those things. So my point is that now anything that goes wrong with a rental property, the tenant, it used to be that if it was dangerous or if there was some issue, then the tenant could kind of claim these things. Now it's even if it's inconvenient or if it's not a nice place to live for the tenant. And so tenants now can just file all these frivolous claims and end up getting put up in a hotel really at the landlord's expense. So these are the sorts of things that the government is now doing. Rental property is becoming very politicized now, and it's no longer, it's your home, you do with it as you will. It's now becoming, kind of a political weapon to try and win votes. And so I don't like what's happening with rental property laws across the country. Of course, some places are better than others. But right now, my personal view is I wouldn't do property unless I was going to live in a property for the next kind of 5 or 10 years. I think you'll do well over the long term. Borrowing rates are so cheap right now. It's a great time to get lending. But if you're not in property right now, I will give it some time. I think there's going to be softness in in the market. I think once the bank forbearances all end and people have to start to pay their mortgages again, banks are going to repossess and foreclose a number of homes. There's about 4 million people right now that are either behind on their payments or have some sort of mortgage distress. So I just think there's just so many issues right now, and it's a risky time to look at residential real estate, let alone commercial and other things. So again, hopefully this has helped you. I'll try and put out more timely content for you. Subscribe to the channel because this is going to give you the videos right away. I'm probably not going to send as many emails moving forward. It's just easier to put a video up and send it versus having to go home, type up an email and everything else. So highly encourage you, if you get value out of this content, just subscribe to the channel and then you'll be able to get everything that you need. Thanks, blessings, and I'll see you next time.